No sooner had Donald Trump announced the end of the war in the Gaza Strip than Hamas started a new war. This time, the militants declared war on local clans, some of which had cooperated with Israel. In short, after the withdrawal of Israeli troops, Hamas militants regrouped and launched a large-scale operation against Palestinian clans that either opposed Hamas's authority or cooperated with Israel. Thus, the departure of the Israelis gave Hamas the opportunity to settle scores with their rivals and clear the political field. In case external players try to establish an independent administration in Gaza, it would have nothing to rely on except Hamas structures. And Donald Trump's peace plan actually proposes external administration, but it does not specify which local resources it should rely on. And Hamas, for its part, made a gesture by formally agreeing to relinquish power. But at the same time, they are now actively creating realities on the ground that are necessary for their political comeback in the future. In general, right now there's a new war in Gaza, so let's discuss what's happening now and what this will lead to in the future. I'm Alexei Pechi. Today is October 13th. And before we start this episode, I want to remind you that every day on this channel there are several news and analytical segments so that you can stay up to date with absolutely all the news. That's why I recommend you subscribe to this YouTube channel. I also recommend subscribing to the Pechi News Telegram channel. The link is in the description of this video. Give it a like and of course leave your comment. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation using the links and details in the description of this video. It says, support the Alexei Pechi channel in any way you prefer. I appreciate your support. So, back on Saturday, October 11th, on the streets of Gaza City, from where Israeli troops had withdrawn, forces of the so-called Hamas internal security were spotted. And in recent days, there have been many reports of clashes between the Hamas group and opposing clans. In Gaza City, real purges have begun of those whom the Hamas terrorists call collaborators and informants for Israel. Hamas militants announced that they killed Bitti. Members of the clans were allegedly engaged in espionage for the enemy and, quote, participated in the killing of several resistance members. That's what they call themselves. Moreover, Hamas does not hide its actions, and here they will quote from the official Hamas statement verbatim. The security services and resistance are conducting a large-scale field operation in all areas of the Gaza Strip from north to south to find and arrest collaborators and informants. And in a video that was circulated as early as Saturday by Telegram channels associated with Hamas, it shows how a suspected collaborator is being beaten in an unknown location. I can't and won't show these videos on YouTube, but in other videos, again on social media, armed Hamas fighters in masks were shown walking through a street market in Gaza City. Well, the so-called Ministry of Internal Affairs, controlled by Hamas, published photos of officers with rifles and baseball caps that say police. Here they are walking around Gaza City and talking to local residents like, who here are the collaborators? Later, footage appeared of shootouts and actual combat operations with sieges of neighborhoods and so on. In short, the fighting is between Hamas and the Hamas-Clan. This is an influential group connected with Hamas's political opponents and with the Fatah movement. Fatah are the ones who are in the West Bank. Different factions of the Hamas-Clan have cooperated at various times with Hamas, with Fatah, with the Popular Resistance Committees, and at one point even with Al-Qaeda. In addition, Hamas attacked the positions of the Yasser Abu Shabab militia units. He is a field commander and mercenary who is accused of collaborating with Israel, importantly in their goal to become an alternative to Hamas. In the Gaza Strip, in the present-day city of Khan Yunis, Hamas militants clashed with the local Al-Mujahideen clan, which is also connected to their opponents from the West Bank Fatah. So, as you can see, the picture is this. Hamas, realizing that the Israeli military had withdrawn, quickly began to eliminate their political opponents. Now the picture is a bit broader. Hamas kept Gaza under strict control for a long time, and this power was maintained even during the war. However, in recent months, Hamas's control over Gaza has been challenged by several clans, especially in the south. Some of these clans or groups received protection from the Israeli military because they opposed Hamas. The fighting continues with mixed results. For example, in clashes in the Sabra area, this is a district of Gaza City, between a well-known family and the security forces, Muhammad Imad Akli was killed. He is the son of a high-ranking Hamas military commander. Later, Hamas militants surrounded this area, and it turned out that the Dugmush family lives in this district, so they surrounded the area and began to apply pressure. As a result, several members of the Hamas-Clan were killed. It is also reported that a large number of armed masked men are concentrated around the Jordanian hospital in Gaza City. They control who receives medical assistance and, unfortunately, who is finished off. In the south of Gaza, the opposition Hamas group known as the People's Forces or the People's Militia refused to lay down their arms. They insist they won't be influenced by Hamas. This group was involved in escorting humanitarian aid convoys and publicly challenged Hamas, which in turn stated that it would confront the so-called criminal group, as they call them. And to understand what is actually happening now in the Gaza Strip, I will quote one of the commanders of these people's forces. His name is Hussam al-Astal. Here's the quote: "To all the Hamas rats, your tunnels are destroyed. Your rights no longer exist. Repent before it's too late." From today, Hamas no longer exists. But a little later, this very al-Astal revealed the whole essence of the current confrontation between Hamas and the local clans. In a comment to Israel's Channel 12, al-Astal stated, quote, "We are trying to become an alternative to Hamas. They are waging psychological warfare and using all their power to prove that there is no other choice in the Gaza Strip. Besides them, it is now known that members of the People's Forces have moved beyond the so-called Yellow Line in southern Gaza, where Israeli troops are still present. They're actually under Israeli troop protection." Now, see what's happening here. In the peace plan published last week by United States President Donald Trump, which consists of 20 points, it says that members of Hamas who pledge to coexist peacefully and surrender their weapons will be granted amnesty. The document also states that a process of demilitarizing Gaza will be carried out under the supervision of independent observers. This will include the decommissioning of weapons through a coordinated decommissioning process. Destruction, and most importantly, instead of Hamas. According to Trump's plan, international stabilization forces will be immediately deployed to Gaza, which, quote, "will train and support vetted Palestinian police forces." And this is the most important thing. Who are these vetted Palestinian forces? The withdrawal of the Israelis gave Hamas the opportunity to settle scores with their rivals and clear the political field in case external players try to bring independent governance into Gaza, which simply won't exist. It's just, what can you rely on except for these structures? Hamas is eliminating all its competitors so that when the international community comes in, Hamas will rebrand itself, change its name, announce it, and who else will there be to rely on except them? And Donald Trump's peace plan actually assumes external governance, but it doesn't specify which local resources this external governance should rely on. Hamas formally agreed to give up power, lay down its arms, and rely on others. But at the same time, they are now directly creating realities on the ground that are necessary for their political comeback in the future. As if saying, we have only ourselves to rely on. That's why it would be strange if Israel itself doesn't support those forces that are now fighting Hamas and have been on Israel's side throughout this war. But otherwise, there really won't be any alternative left in the Gaza Strip. Hamas. I'll leave it at that. If you still have questions, be sure to write them in the comments. In the next episodes, we'll discuss what hasn't been covered yet. Write your comments as well. For example, I sometimes make mistakes and I acknowledge those mistakes. So if you notice any factual mistake in this episode, be sure to write about it in the comments as well. Subscribe to the channel, click the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.